Hello, everyone. This is Chris Frederick with the Stretch to Win Institute, and I'm really excited to have a couple of guests today. One of them is one of my graduates, Ryan, and he's here with a surprise guest with one of his clients. And this is about FST or fascial stretch therapy, giving hope to people. And I have not heard this story before, so I'm very excited. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Ryan, if you introduce yourself, and Andy.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan Yakiwchuk. I'm a level 2 FST therapist. Just recently graduated from the level 2 program in Tempe, Arizona. Really excited about it. And this is one of my clients, Andy Tanner. Andy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thanks for inviting me. This is a fun opportunity for me to share. I don't know that my experience is that unique, but just a little bit of background. I was not a very good basketball player. In college, I couldn't jump, I couldn't shoot, but I could foul. And so they let me be on the team. And since I wasn't very skilled, I played the game very, very hard, very, very rough. And that took its toll, and now years later, and I have to take responsibility for a few extra pounds and that lifestyle that gets behind the computer a little bit sometimes, and maybe too many ice creams. But I had some surgery. I had some back surgery. I put it off for about a year, and the surgery was pretty successful as far as getting out of pain. But about 6 months after, I got into some severe muscle spasms, severe.
Wow.
And normally a muscle spasm with me, I've had chronic back pain for my adult life. It might last a few days to a week, and then it'll finally let go. Maybe some stim on it has helped. But nothing helped this one. I was just very fortunate, very lucky to run into Ryan at his practice. And he put me on the table, and I knew that this was different. Back when I played basketball, they have really high level trainers, world-class guys.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been on a table like that in a long time, and I could just tell that the angles which he could stretch me were starting to bring immediate relief and releasing things. So I started. I says, hey, I want to do this more often. So we got on a regimen of between 1 and 2 times a week, and it helps your whole body. It's such a different thing that you would get from trying to stretch yourself with a sit and reach or a wall stretch or doorway stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different science, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, I just counted myself. I tell all my friends about Ryan because not only is he a great technician, but he's a great guy and he has a great spirit about him that I enjoy as well. So that's pretty much my story. But my wife, she likes to be around me now when you're not, I don't get irritable when I'm in pain, but I get quiet.
Yeah.
The other thing that has really meant a lot to me that I want to thank Ryan and you guys for with this is not having to take pain medications.
Wow.
When you take, when you have to take a Percocet or a narcotic, that's some guys like that feeling. I don't like floating around all the time.
Yeah.
So while I can't say that fascial stretching is going to cure a guy from cancer and all that type of stuff, I will say that if you've got some pain, that it might not be that if you've gone to a chiropractor and he's tried those adjustments, lengthening some of that tissue that has tensile strength rather than compressive strength.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to have really helped me a lot. So I'm excited to tell everybody, give it a shot. It's healthy to be flexible.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with describing exactly what we do, which is decompress you. Your spine and all of your joints and your scar tissue and your muscle tissue. So that's a very perceptive comment that you made. But Ryan, thanks for sharing that, Andy. That's a cool story. From a therapist perspective, so we have the client perspective, which is kind of interesting, and then we have Ryan. When you first saw Andy come in, you've seen a bunch of clients, and actually, Andy, it sounds like unless do you have a disc issue?
Pardon me?
You don't have a herniated disc, do you?
Yeah, I did. I have.
You did.
I had and have. I've had it reoccur a little bit.
Okay.
But I went to my surgeon, the second time, And he said, we don't like to do surgery at last resort. He says, how are you managing this? And I told him about the stretching. I told him what I was doing. He said, hey, keep going with that. He said, if we can do anything to avoid surgery, we're best off to do that a second time. And so he's been a huge supporter of this regimen I've gotten involved in.
So a lot of people still fall into this category, even if they've had a herniated disc a while ago, kind of gotten over it, get episodes like you do every once in a while. They call that chronic non-specific low back pain. And like 80% of the world gets that. Well, United States. We don't know about other countries, right? But 80% of our population get that bad enough to see a doctor. So that falls, I think, in that category. And so it's very common. And yet there's a lot of people that are just suffering with that on an ongoing basis. They expect to get an episode. I've heard people tell me when I took their history, I get 6 episodes a year, or every 6 months it goes, and the chiropractor or whoever puts it back in, but then it's going to go again. So they never quite have that confidence it's gone. Or they can lift something, never knowing when it's going to go out, kind of thing. So Ryan,
another thing I've experienced is often when I've gone, they look at it very localized. They'll say, "Where's your back pain?" They'll treat it locally.
Right.
But I felt my experience by opening up my hamstrings, even down into my calves and my feet, opening up my hips particularly, that a lot of that back pain perhaps wasn't in that area, but a lot of the causes are in the periphery to that, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And so that's been a great thing to walk out of a session and have a looseness in my hips, a looseness in my hamstrings that seems to take a lot of pressure. It's as if everything was connected, and by going away from that area and getting some of the peripheral issues loosened up seems to give a lot of relief there.
So thanks for sharing with that. So Ryan, let's hear from you in terms of therapist perspective. Just what did it present like in terms of, could you do all the positions? Was it mostly a hip flexor issue that released the back, or any quick tips about sort of what you saw, or what was
So when I first met Andy, I had my table set up in the lobby of the health club that I work in, and I was doing little free 15-minute samples, and he walked up hunched over. He's 6'5", 6'8",
Wow.
and he's hunched over, kind of hobbling over.
Well, he came in 6'5" and he left 6'8".
Yeah, exactly. So he comes hobbling over, and he's like, "Gosh, I feel like you're a godsend. I've been looking for this." And so I have him jump up. But in the beginning, I mean, the lateral line stuff was super, super tight. I mean, I couldn't take him very far at all. So it was just being very subtle and very patient and not pushing too much or too hard in the beginning that really made the difference. And I use a ton of, and if I haven't seen him for a few weeks, he's pretty tight. He's a stockbroker, and he flies around the country, so he doesn't have a lot of time to stretch himself.
Sure.
So a lot of times if I don't see him for, I was in Arizona training, I come back, I hadn't seen him for 2 weeks, and he's really, really tight again. So it's almost like I'm back to some of the level 1 stuff with him, and just easing into some of that, into some of those things, and then trying some of the new hip openers that we learned. And so a lot of hip stuff really helps with that low back. A lot of the lateral line stuff. I've been incorporating some of the level 2, the spirals,
right?
The lateral hamstring spirals make a big difference. And then educating him as well, and rolling it and getting him to do the core 4 stretching, and the rolling out the feet. I think that's a huge thing. It's starting in the feet. All our fascial lines either start or end in the feet.
So he gave you some homework there, Andy? You got some homework?
Yeah, it's a tough thing, because when people think about massage or stretching, they think about laying down on a table with hot stones on your back and just sitting there in bliss.
Right.
And the thing I've learned is, like anything else in life, I have to do my part.
Okay.
And I have to, he's really good, and he never goes to the point where I'm going to tap out, with
right.
pain.
Right.
But but we go to that point where I have to do my part and I focus and I breathe and the homework stuff. I will say this though, as much as I've always been a big believer in coaches and people that can help you. And I know that there's a lot of things I can do to stretch and do things, but when there's someone there to help you do that, for those that want help, I think it's a great thing to have someone else to do assisted stretching and the resistance you can do and their expertise, because I might not know when I'm pushing myself too hard or too little. And I think it's great to have someone that's experienced to help me out. So I'm always indebted to Ryan, and he's just become a good friend over the past 6 months we've been doing this.
That's awesome. So Ryan, how long did it take to straighten him up?
You know what? Within, I would say the first week, he noticed a huge relief within 15 minutes of that he was asking for more within 15 minutes of that free stretch I gave him.
You know, in back spasms in the past, I'd always treat it with stim, which is always a good thing, stim and common. But this thing would not let go, and I had it for, I would say up to 3 weeks at this point.
Wow.
Not being able to stand up straight.
Yeah.
And it was just so amazing to go from a really high pain level to something that was tolerable. But I'd say within about 2-3 weeks, I'd stand up off the table and I was straight again. But as far as being able to function, I'm never going to be dunking basketballs behind my head again.
Right.
I'm 47 years old, and that was about 100 pounds ago for me. But, but the reality is, I can be with my kids and I can be with my wife and I can function and get the things done I need to do. And, Ryan and I have some good goals to get back into some of the jiu-jitsu I used to enjoy.
Awesome.
And, take it slow. But, there's never anything that's magic. But I like the science of how this works. The small amount of anatomy to understand, and understanding what fascia is and having seen what it looks like even on a cadaver, it made a lot of sense to me to go in a direction where I could stretch out some of the things that cause tension in the body and help, and that would help the spine and help some of those compressive issues as well.
Yeah, I mean,
so I've really enjoyed it.
It's kind of cool that it's a non-surgical, non-medical, and relatively, once you know the techniques and you're trained in it, easy way to help people get out of pain. Honestly, that's what it comes down. That's what it comes down to. It's perfectly safe, and it doesn't take long for it to happen. And then it's a question of maintaining it like that. So I think on that note, I'm going to end this great interview. I really appreciate both of you. Andy,
you're welcome.
Telling your personal story for the world. I really appreciate you sharing that because honestly, I think that's an inspiring story. You're going to inspire others because they haven't found the answer yet like you have.
So the thing I would tell people is, look, you don't know whether or not, this will help you guaranteed, but I'll tell you, there's nothing to be fearful if you have a well-trained, therapist. I could tell immediately that his education was top-notch, and he understood anatomy, understood the science, and there was no voodoo to it. This is a science thing, not a voodoo thing. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to communicate is, hey, give it a try, get stretched out, and see if you don't feel better.
That's awesome. And Ryan, any parting words of wisdom?
Just super grateful to find the Stretch to Win Institute, and I'm learning. I learned a ton in level 1. I learned a ton in level 2, and for all those therapists out there, just get bodies on your table. That's how you learn is by getting bodies on your table, body after body after body. Communicate, put your heart out there, and when you have a passion for something, a passion and a drive for something like I do in helping people, you're going to do great things, and I just love helping people, and I appreciate everything I learned at the Stretch to Win Institute. Love you, Chris, and love Ann a lot.
Thank you. We love you guys. We love you too. We love you too, Andy.
Boy, a lot of love in here, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, they're doing hashtag FST is love now. That's my students are doing that. They came up with that. But hey,
I appreciate it, Chris.
It's that world. So we appreciate you. Thanks for your time. That's it, everyone. That's one of our most recent stories about how FST gives hope. Tune in for other cool stories. And we want to thank Ryan and Andy once again. And until we meet again, take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris.
Take care.